In the last session, we went through a lot of properties, various types of databases that are available in the market. We touched base upon graph database. We touched base upon the time series and a lot of other databases too. So, 1 second. Okay. So, shit. Sure, ठीक है. So, okay. Okay, give me a second, guys. Okay, so we went through a lot of databases, but we will go through today uh, with couple of important properties of databases, and they are very important. And each database is categorized to one or the another property, and hence it is very important. While you select a particular database for your use case, these things you should know. So we can start with ACID. So ACID is a very basic, everyone knows about it. It is linked to relation database and not NoSQL databases. So ACID belongs to atomicity, consistency, isolation and durability. So basically the transaction that you are doing has to be happen in isolation so that it is consistent in nature, and it is available wherever, whenever we, for example, if there is a banking application, if your balance is 1000 rupees, then it should be 1000 rupees across all the nodes, right? So that is ACID. Then CRUD, we already know what CRUD is. So CRUD belongs to create, read, update and delete queries. So most of the databases support it. It is just for a reference that CRUD is an important aspect of any database. Then this is important now. So when we talk about these properties, these were already available in relational database, but distributed database, why it went, it is important is because now you can scale database horizontally as well. So scaling in RDMS, typically of late we have the newer versions of RDBMS like MySQL, which supports um, horizontally scaling as well, but still it is very challenging to manage that. But NoSQL from scratch gives us a very free aspect of, very easy aspect of horizontal scaling. And we can create charts, we can create replications in different nodes. You have a lot of properties to play with. Even if one of your node goes down, still, because replication data is available in another nodes, your application will keep on moving, so you don't have to switch between master and slave like in RDBMS. So all these things will not be there in distributed database or NoSQL database in most of them. There are certain, definitely there are certain exceptions to that as well. So distributed database, whenever we say, it is basically the horizontal scaling can happen, and then your data can be fetched from one server to another, and which brings another issue, another problem. Sure. Give me a second, guys. I wanted to draw something and then want to show you. So which brings another issue to the forum, which is the cap theorem, for which the cap theorem was introduced. So let's see what the issue is. Okay, so let's say we have three nodes. Okay, so we have node 1, we have, let's say, node 2, and we have node 3. Okay, so these are interconnected, and data is flowing between them. Let's say we are writing something here and someone is reading from this node. Okay, so let's, now this is a banking application, and we someone is writing current, let's say someone is writing the balance, and someone is using $100, and the current balance was, let's say, 1000 bucks. So now what is happening here is that we, on this node, the balance, if someone wants to check, it will be $1100, right? While on other these nodes, because the replication might yet is still in progress, or it takes some time For example, you have a Yahoo server, right? There are 4,000 nodes or 5,000 nodes, and they are spread across the globe. Let's say Facebook. We will go to the Facebook example as well, but it takes typically 20 minutes to replicate data from their master node to all other nodes, which means if some user has a balance of 1100, it will get reflected on the edge nodes only after, let's say, 20 minutes. So if someone is reading data from this node, the data will still say that the balance is $1,000, or even worse. Let's say that this particular person withdraws $1,000 from this node, from his bank balance. On this node, his balance shows zero, while if the bank application reads data from another node, his balance will be still $1,000, and he can withdraw $1,000 more, right? So you cannot afford that kind of consistency. So that's why this cap theorem was introduced. So in this cap theorem, we have three parts. Okay, so one part is the partition tolerance, so which is P. So partition tolerance is, if one partition goes down, then the application will keep on running, it is still available. So that belongs to the network partition tolerance part, or rather, okay, we will discuss about the P thing. It is very interesting, and but P stands for the partitioning part, C stands for consistency. So it is similar to the transaction that we saw, that the data should be consistent across all the nodes, right? And then availability. So data when fetched from any of the nodes should be available. So that is availability. It is not that the data is fetched only from one node, like a master slave configuration that we have in, let's say, MySQL. So that's not availability. So the consistency and availability are very important aspects of any NoSQL database. So now, when this was introduced, so it was introduced in 1999, and then at that time, NoSQL data was not that in, and so it was said that we can achieve only two of the aspects at one time and not all three. Okay, let me explain how. One second. Am I audible and clear on this? Okay. Okay, by that time, okay, so let's see if I can. Actually, I am opening my another computer because I can draw it quickly from there, but got it. Okay, so let's wait till the time it comes up. We'll have this. So we have, okay. Okay, so let's see, we have this. God, I want to write. We have consistency here, we have partitioning here, and we have availability here. Okay, so it was said that we can never achieve this section, which is all three at one time. So why it is so? Because we'll discuss about that key, why it is important and why it is, then how it reflects in our database selection. So whenever someone say that if you want a banking application, then which kind of system you should choose, or if you want something analytical, like a database which process a lot of data only for analytical purpose, then what type of database you should choose. So this cap theorem is a very important aspect, but why I went through the history of it was because um, because when Kepler theorem was introduced, it was considered that partitioning is also a very important aspect. But now, because we have a lot of cheap servers available, we have a lot of we have a lot of bandwidth, network bandwidth, which is available. This partition does not hold any importance, and it actually means that that we at any point of time you have to choose between. So CA doesn't never, there is no situation where you will only see about CA, non-partition system, and if you're talking about CA, it is always about single node servers where partitioning is not there, like MySQL or Microsoft SQL. So all these single node servers we will when we are talking, that is only when we are talking about CA. But if we are talking about NoSQL data, then we always talk about two um we talk about only two aspect of it. One is CP and one is CA. Okay, so it's little confusing. Give me a time, give me a few minutes so that I can explain it better. Okay, I am back. Okay, okay, so I am back. Okay, so this can never happen. We are talking about CP and CA. Okay, so when we talk about the two options that we have are CP and CA. Okay, so what are these two? So let's understand these two in deep, and then sorry. I can remove. Can I remove? Okay, so we are talking about CP and AP. Okay, so what are these two? So one aspect talk about that your system is consistent. Okay, and then the system says that your system is available. So what is the difference between the two? So when we talk about availability, we talk about that data can be available, data is available through all nodes. So the system that you just saw here, right? So in this system what is happening is that uh, the data is available, you can read data from this node as well. But uh, but what happened was the balance here is not consistent. It is still $1,000, right? And while the balance here is $1,100, so the data is available but data is not consistent. So which kind of use case it might have? So the use case could be, and the use case here could be your analytical database. For example, you want to see a trend of users, how they are visiting your store, right? So even if there is a mismatch of, let's say, 0.001% or 0.1%, even 1 2%, then it does not matter that much. So you can still use that kind of data, which is uh, available but not consistent in for analytical purpose. But if you want to maintain some kind of transactional relationship, like you want to create a user, you want to create uh, if you want to create a post as well, but it depends upon how, which kind of post is there, will it be available only for you, or we will talk about that use case. So but if it is a transactional data, even let's say for banking purpose, then you want to be sure that your data is consistent throughout all the nodes. From whichever node I am reading, it is always same. Okay, so that is CP, which is consistent, which is like consistent and partitioned, and for analytical purpose we will have AP, which is for analytic, for available and still partition are available. So this CP and AC part is clear, right? Okay, so so we'll discuss about this. So one important aspect here is that the CA. So we talks about CA here as well, and in acid as well. So CA in acid and cap are different. So how they're different? C is consistent in both acid and cap, but in cap it is consistent throughout all the nodes, while in CA it is consistent only on the node it is writing. So in acid, C is, for example, in RDBMS, not necessarily your slave have the same data, but the data is still consistent. But in cap, the data across all the nodes should be the same. And A is uh, A for cap is the A is availability, and for acid it is atomicity. So so basically, whenever you are writing a particular data, it should be atomic in nature, which is no one can interfere in that specific writing. While here A is availability, so so it is quite different. So this we need to take care of, and there is no skipping of P. So so basically in NoSQL, as we said that we are taking NoSQL database because it is it is horizontally scalable. So we cannot skip P. And there is even an article. So so CAP theorem was suggested by Brewer. So in 2012 he again wrote an article which says that he was somewhat uh, the CAP theorem does not uh, is not, he did not say that it is irrelevant, it is still easier to understand. So that's why cap theorem everyone refers to it even now, but the P in the cap theorem does not make sense as of now. Then we talked about consistency. So there can be two types of consistency. So one could be a read consistent database, one could be a write consistent database. So read consistent database are for example, if you are writing on a specific node. Okay, so let's say, okay, so we have let's say we have two nodes here. So what we were talking about, read consistent. Okay, so so let's say we are writing to this node on a specific ID, and there is a read request. Okay, so so when we are writing it, it will write, and for example, if application, so you know what sessions are, what transactions are, right? So transaction is said to be complete once database say that it has committed that data on its database, right? And if you're writing something on a database, let's say in our DBMS, you updated, let's say, the balance of the user by 1000. So current balance is $1100. So now it wrote that data, and the transaction was complete, and then application can can return the value to the end user that your data was written into the database. So these are but when the read will happen, so read will wait till this transaction gets completed across all the nodes, which means if if a database is read consistent, then the reading will take more time than writing. So you might have heard about the databases where the reads are slow or the writes are slow, right? So this is because of that. So if it is a read consistent database, then the reads will be slow. If it is a write consistent database, then the writes will be slow. So basically your transition starts when your request come to add $1100 and your balance is $1100, then it will propagate to all the nodes, sorry, and then your database will tell to application that okay, so write is complete. Now you can ask your customer that that your balance has been updated across all the nodes. So that is write consistent database, and in this case write will take more time. So these are the difference between the two databases. And then we have analytical AP talked about this. So so we already talked about this thing that availability is that the request can be fetched from any of the nodes, so that the database is fast. But it also means that the data will be inconsistent. And after that there was a theorem which was proposed, which was named as Bayes theorem. Okay, so CAP theorem was introduced way back in 1999, but with all the modern things, so there is one more aspect to it. So one more aspect is whenever you are designing something, some these kind of database, one important aspect that you have to keep in mind, and especially for consistent CP kind of databases, is the latency of the network. So let's say if you have a database across the world, that then how much time it takes to ensure that your data is replicated throughout the world, and then you design your application according to that. You cannot skip that. So we'll talk about that, one of the examples, how it impacts. So Bayes theorem. So Bayes theorem is nothing but basic availability, soft set, and eventual. Wow. Where is my? Give me a second. So okay, I probably forgot to save it. Okay, so so Bayes, what exactly Bayes is? Let me show it to you. How can I clean this off? Okay. Wow. Okay. So now I'm clear. So so we were talking about Bayes. So we already know that we have this RDBMS DB, and we have these NoSQL DB. We talked about okay, one. Okay, so so we talked about APA and CP, but in real world scenario there is no database who is perfectly AP or a perfectly CP. So they lie around somewhere in middle. Okay, so when we talked about RDBMS, uh, we we say that RDBMS kind of database belongs to ACID. They are very strictly consistent, right? And NoSQL database, we will talk about Bayes. And then all the databases belong somewhere in middle. Either they will be consistent, more consistent, or they will be more available and less consistent. But there is no database which is either pure ACID or a pure Bayes database. Okay, so let's talk about Bayes first. What Bayes say? So Bayes is saying that your code will be basically available. So whenever you are writing a particular data in a database, it is not strictly available. So so probably from one node it is the data is uh, how can I explain? So so basically available, soft state, and eventual consistent. So uh, so when you are writing data into a particular database, there might be a lock on a particular transaction at that specific amount of time. So but all the other nodes are available, so it is basically available. And then we talk about the soft state, which is when the data is being propagated throughout all the nodes. And then there is a soft state where the data is not consistent. And then we talk about eventually it will get consistent. So there is a guarantee that eventually it will get consistent. It will not be like a Bitcoin, where not necessarily, even if there is a transaction created, your money can still get lost. It will not get lost, but the transaction will not happen. So there is a possibility there. But in this case, what we are saying is that eventually it will get consistent. Okay, so architects are okay with systems which will eventually get consistent. So we'll talk about the two examples of Yahoo and Facebook. So, okay, so Yahoo have this PNet system where you know that Yahoo can be accessed throughout the world, right? So there is always a challenge for any architect who is designing a particular system, that from which node I should fetch data. Should I fetch data from, for example, right now what we are facing is that should we fetch data from a US server or an Indian server or a Singapore server, right? So similar issues or similar questions are there for these kinds of systems as well. So whether you should fetch data, and in this case the data is getting replicated throughout the world. So there will be a server in, let's say, Japan, Singapore, India, Ireland, US, probably in South Africa. So how should I fetch data? Should I consider only one master table and all the other tables as slave, or can I write in any of the nodes and then it will get propagated, but how it will impact other users? So in this Yahoo PooNet system, what they have done is that the data is, the master copy of data is stored as per user's location. So in general, if user's location is in India, then his master data will always be saved in India. So if someone is accessing, even this user is accessing data from US, because his user's normal location is in India, it will always be fetched from India itself, because India will be considered as the master copy of that particular user, and then it gets replicated throughout whole world. So this is how the Yahoo system works. So when we talk about NoSQL, we also know that different nodes, every node can be a master, right, for a subset of data. So in this case, the single user data is naturally partitioned according to user's normal location, which is whenever so it is already being partitioned as per that. So whenever he will write, he will always write in India's database only. If a US person will write, he will write only in the US zone, and then it will get replicated throughout the world. So this is how Yahoo works, and Facebook works in a very different way, and it is very interesting actually. So Facebook, there is only one master database, and if, let's say, for example, you are writing a post, okay, so whenever you write a particular post, it will get inserted into that master database. Let's say this master database is in US. So whenever you are writing a particular post or you are commenting, then this data will be written inside the US server. And then, okay, so let me take a step back. So whenever you open a Facebook application, whenever you are going through all the blogs, all the content, it is fetching from the server which is nearest to you, maybe in India, let's say. So whenever you are reading database, you are scrolling through the whole website, it is getting data from your from the server which is nearest to you. But whenever you write a post or a comment, then this comment is actually written to the master database. Let's say it is in US, so we write it into the master database in US. Now the user session for next 20 minutes will be fetched only from that master database and not from the local database, even though there might be some latency, but that is fine. That is how the FB application has been built. So now it will fetch data which is roughly around 20 minutes from the master database till the time all the comments are synced throughout the world, all the nodes, it gets synced. So once it is done, then again the application switches back to the location which is closest to the user. So this is how FB uh, architecture work with this NoSQL data. So both of these examples are clear, right? Okay, so but the crux here is that not only your database has to be designed in a specific way how your requirement is, but also the application. So in case of Facebook, if you can see, the whole thing is not only managed by the database itself, but also from the application side of it. Okay, then we have this other classification. We will just quickly go through it. So if there is a requirement of a specific data model, then you cannot choose a lot of other databases. So for example, if there is a graph requirement, then you will probably work on graph only. If you have key value pair requirement like Redis, you will only use key value. So there is no option other than that. Then data variability, everyone knows that basically your data can be semi-structured or unstructured, database can be there, so that will be there. And then operational capacities. So for example, if there is a requirement for search, then you can only choose search engine. Like if you want to do a text search, or if you want analytics over text, then you can not pick any other thing but a search engine like Elasticsearch, like that. So so I think these two things are clear, right? So so this is a quick overview of which database belong to which category. Okay, so MongoDB is more consistent, Redis is very consistent, HBase is again a consistent database, Bigtable is again on the consistent part, and then distributed locking, this is very consistent, Apache Zookeeper, because it has to know the exactly right now what the state of a particular node is. So so it is strictly consistent. Then we have availability. So Cassandra can be made consistent as well, but generally it is used for analytical purpose, so it is AP bound. DynamoDB is again AP. We have a Couchbase and RAC, which is again available. So these are databases which are more available than consistent. So okay, so this is the important part that we wanted to discuss in this particular task. So a lot of people face a lot of issues in modeling a particular database. So so I read somewhere that how can we make it very simple. Okay, so so we need to only think through 4 or 5 of the items, so that you can precisely come up with the database model. Okay, and why database model is required? Because then you can visualize how the database will look, how the application will interact with the database. So that's why database modeling is required at the first place. You cannot just start creating all the tables. If you have not visualized it, you will not be able to work upon it. So so there are 4 important aspects that you need to think through. So let's say you have got a problem statement. In our case, let's see what example we are talking about. We are talking about um, a system like you have a shopping mall and you are buying something. Okay, so so let's assume that that what all things will impact, or what all tables you have to create to ensure that the basic ground operations of there are a lot of operations in a particular shopping complex or a shop. So we will not cover everything like inventory and all, but we are just talking about very simple basic thing, and then we'll jump into a particular problem statement. So when we talk about a shop, so there is a customer. So okay, so first we need to find out who the main actors are. Okay, so main actors could be physical users like customers, there could be a physical user like employee, and then there could be certain users which are not physical but still they are main actors. So certain examples could be like inventory, items. If you are talking about Book My Show, then let's say PVR icon, yeah, or a particular multiplex or a movie theater could be one of the actors. So now these are not physical actors, these are not users, but still they are main actors. So we need to create tables for all the actors for sure. So the first aspect you have to think about is that who all are the main actors for this particular uh, functionality. Then we talk about the actions of actors. So let's say what does an actor do, what a customer do. So the customer do purchases, the customer returns item, or the customer complains. So all these are actions by a particular actor. Okay, so all these are basically um, so we need to create all the tables which are related to actions of actor. Now, so there could be certain properties which might not fit in this two-dimensional structure of relationship. So what it means is, let's say um, you have an actor like user. So now you might have user might have a multiple number of mobile numbers, right? So either you can have comma separated values of mobile number, which no one does. Okay, so now what you will do is you will create a new table for it. You will create a new table like addresses. A user might have multiple addresses: home address, office address, some another kind of address, right? So it is not fitting directly in a specific table with the actor itself. It is a multi dimensional mapping of one to many mapping of, or in simple words, it is a one to many mapping of actor and its properties. You can think of that. So actors properties are like address, phone number, uh, then so these items will go as a separate table. So this is clear, right? Hello. Okay, so another aspect again is it is in the same form as the action of actors in again two-dimensional structure. So what actions we talked about was, let's say the customer made purchases. So in a single purchase there could be multiple items that a user can purchase. So again it is a one to many relationship between a particular purchase ID and the total number of items that he purchased. So it will go as a separate table. Similarly, return, let's say what if user can return multiple items of a single purchase, then again it will be a one to many relationship between the return and the items. Complaints probably could be one to one mapping, so we will not think a table, separate table for that. So we talked about main actors, what action that particular actor can take. Then we'll talk about both like actors and actions. If there is certain properties which cannot be fit in one to one mapping, that is it cannot fit in a single row table, then we have to create multiple tables for that. And then we'll talk about optimization. So optimizations are like normalization, denormalization. And generally whenever we talk about RDBMS, we always talk about normalization, but that is not the fact. So when, because we are talking about NoSQL as well, so we should also think about the denormalization, and hence this OLTP and OLAP systems comes into picture. So OLTP is transactional, I don't remember the whole name, but this is more transactional in nature, OLTP, and OLAP is more analytical in nature. Okay, so if you want something like some analytics, let's say you want let's take the same example where we want to separate out the action, let's say purchases and items of the purchase as a separate table. So now this is a normalized form of it, that you may have made separate table for all the items. But what if you have a analytical database? Now what you have to do is you have to make a join between the two tables, and in fact the user table as well, and then you have to get that data, which might be a very slow process. So you might think of using a denormalized form instead of a normalized form. So which means that in the action of actor, you will encapsulate the two-dimensional data as well within that table itself. We'll talk about that later. But so you have to think about both normalization and denormalization nowadays, rather than only think about normalization, depending upon which kind of database you have, or rather if you are using the same database for multiple purpose, what is the main purpose of that database. It could be for transactional use, or it could be for analytical use. What is the main purpose of it, and based on that you should design your database in a more normalized form or more denormalized form. So this is very important, this particular portion. Okay, so so let's say we want to do a RDBMS normalization. So we talked about this. So I will quickly walk you through what this particular example is. Okay, so so we are taking a very simple example for understanding today, and then later we can dig deep into a more complex structure. So one of the database that I saw, and one of the examples that I read, and hence I have taken this data from there itself, that they were talking about there is a database which is available over internet, which you can use for your learning purpose. Okay, so that is Movie Lens database, and it is a very simple database. It has two main actors. One is users who actually rate and tag movies, and another is movies itself, which might have a particular genre. It belongs to a particular genre. There could be a release date. So all these items will be there under movies. So, and then because user are rating movies and user are also tagging movies, so there are certain actions related to both these actors. So when I will be designing this RDBMS model, what I will think? I will think of first what all actors are there in this particular system. So I see only two actors. One is the users who are actually rating the movies, who these users are. Everything revolves around the users, and then the second main actor is the movie, because users are rating against the movie. So again, movie is very important aspect of this design. So that's why we have two actors here. Now what are the actions of these actors? So users actually are rating movies and user are tagging movies. So these are the two tables that we want again from the system. Then properties of actor which does not fit in the two-dimensional structure. Let's say uh, uh, we have a user. Okay, so we can have like addresses which does not fit. In this case there were no addresses, there were no email address, there was no phone number, so that's why there is no more than two-dimensional structure for users. But if you can think of mobile number or an address, so these are the two-dimensional structure of relationship that can happen with this particular actor, which is user. Now for movies, movies can have different uh, genres like action, it could be comedy, it could be both action and comedy, right? So again it is a multi-dimensional list. So you can either you can do a comma separate in the movie table itself. You can have comma separated values of genres, but then this is a very bad design, so you have to normalize it. So what you will do is you will create totally different table for that, and then you want to see the properties of the actions which does not fit in two-dimensional structure, which is not there. So we have not created any database for that. So now if we want to create an optimization of it, then what we can do is, or rather let me show you here itself. Oh, where is my, okay, here. So this is how the structure looks like. Okay, so we are talking about users, we are talking about the movies, and then we talked about the relation between the two, which is tags and ratings. Okay, so these are the very important aspect of the discussion that we did till now. So if you can see that there is a foreign key relationship between this tags and the user ID, as well as there is a foreign key relationship between movie ID and movies, right? So this is a very basic thing. But if you want to normalize it further, Then what you can do is you have genre of movies, and then the genre of movies itself, let's say someone is writing the genre of movies like action. It could be action, it could be actions. Someone can misplace the word, like uh, he removed the letter A itself. So we do not want that kind of mistake. So we created a metadata kind of table like genre. So we thought about that, and hence we created this particular table. Similarly, let's say if user has an occupation, then we can create a separate table for occupation, so that we can ensure that the occupation is a fixed word, so that if for analytical purpose, if I want to gather data, it should not be like Mr. Doctor, doctors. It should be a common name as doctor and not something else. So that's why we created another table which is occupation. And if I want to create something different, let's say if I want to introduce something which is if want to optimize it further, or if want to think of any action of properties of action of actors, it could be, let's say we want history of users, how he rated a particular movie. So whenever user changes the rating of a movie, we will create a relationship. So now the user can change the rating of a movie many times, so it's not a one-to-one relationship. So now I need to create another table which will be something like this: user rate movies audit. So whenever there is a change, I will push the data here with the change date, and then the new rating will come here. So this is not one-to-one relationship, so that's why I created another table for that. So this is how your table structure will typically look like your main actors, and then the relationship between the actors, and then if there is something that you want to ensure that it is consistent, then you will create tables for data consistency, that the data will always be fetched from these tables, and not new name or data will be created, especially for text kind of data. So now if the same thing has to be done in document DB, then what? So when we talk about document DB, it is nothing but like MongoDB. We talked about it, right? So typically we do not want to normalize a lot of data, because we can create a lot of rows itself. Let me take an example here. So movies, we talked about it in RDBMS, was that we can have another table, because we cannot insert multi-dimensional values within the same actor, right? So but in this case, what we can do is, because it is a JSON kind of data, we can add an uh, array of genre within the movie itself, and still it is searchable, right? So because NoSQL data gives you an option like that, so that's why you will not create a separate table for that. So if you see here the difference between the two, let's say so we talk about actions. So in document DB also we will talk about actors, definitely. Then the action for actors, we can still write action of actors within the user. So one can argue that why not in user table itself, whatever movies rating he has done, let's uh, add those movies in the user table itself, right? So that can be a valid point. But typically if there are two or more actors which are interacting in a NoSQL database, then preferably create a separate table, so that you can run some kind of analytical data on it, or because it is related to two different tables, then it is still easier for the search purpose. But if you insert this data in the user table itself or in movies table itself, it will get complicated. Let's say user has rated thousands of movies, then how it will look, means the main aspect of a NoSQL database or modeling in a document DB especially is that you have a very clear picture of the user. You will have the username, action, and all other aspects you can see in one view. But if there are a lot of things that are related to specifically one user, or there is a use case where you are interacting with multiple tables for a particular action, then definitely you should create a separate table for that. So for actors and actions, this relationship remains the same. But if there is a particular property which is not fitting in multi-dimension, so one of the things that we discussed here was, if the property of actors which is not fitting in the two-dimensional structure of relationship, then we should create another table for that. So this is not applicable. So because now it is related to only one specific actor, for example address for a user, mobile number for a user, then you can still keep uh, array of mobile numbers, array of addresses in the under the same user bucket. You can do that. So this is not required anymore. Again, the action of factors, if they are not fitting in two-dimensional structure, this is again not required anymore until unless there is a very specific need. So you can ignore these two parts for a NoSQL database. So let's take an example. In this, if you can see, in the users table itself, we have inserted the occupation ID or occupation table itself. We do not require this. We can still have it if you want to standardize on the database level. If you want to standardize this on the application level, you can still do that, and you can remove this table altogether. Similarly, in movies, we had this multiple. We have this table which was a relationship between the genre and movies, but in this case, we have inserted that genre inside the movies table itself. And then we had this relationship between the tags and ratings. So it is still there, but one important aspect here is that the reference in, let's say this is specifically for MongoDB. Okay, so here there is no primary key as such, so you have to do an object reference. So in this case what you are doing is, there is an object reference of user ID, and then there is an ID, and again there is an object reference of movie ID and then ID. So it is not strictly a foreign key primary key relationship between these tables and the actor tables, but this is how it is maintained in a document DB, like object relationship. And what is the relationship between this table and this table? That will be derived by this object relationship model, which is like movie ID and the ID of the movie itself. So the main main thing that the main change, in fact, that you might want to think in terms of DBMS designing and document DB designing, or rather more or less all of the NoSQL databases, would be the normalization part, whether you want to normalize or denormalize things. And if and in NoSQL database, in most of the cases you can it supports multiple records within one record. That is, it supports JSON kind of data where you can have array of items. So in that case you do not require additional tables where one-to-one mapping is not supported. Then the graph modeling is slightly different. One second. So graph model cannot be represented directly. Okay. So when we talk about graph model, so graph already have this relationship between various entities. So we have, let's say, two entities here. One is this, and let's say one is this. These are these entities are nothing else but actors. So we have two actors, one was user and another was movies. Okay, so we already know what all parameters are there for this user. You will have ID, you will have name, you will have occupation ID, whatever things you want when this user was created. Similarly, you will have all the relationship, all the data between the movies item with like ID, title, release date, and genre in the JSON format. But now, you had two additional tables there in RDBMS and document DB, but in this case, it is a relationship. So, what are the relationship? There are two relationship between the users and movies. One relationship is rating, and what are the parameters of this rating relationship? How many stars he gave. Let's say he gave 5 stars or 3 stars. So that is the relationship between these two entities. Similarly, there was another entity which was tag. So this movie was tagged as, let's say, this user tagged this movie as action movie, not in terms of genre, but he's tagging, or fighting, right? So so these are the tags. So in case of uh, uh, in case of uh, what I was discussing. So, so basically, in case of this kind of database, graph database, you will have entities, and directly the relationship you can represent it using the relationship itself, and relationship itself will have the properties where you can save certain items or certain elements to it. So, so the modeling of a graph database would be very simple, but probably this use case is not is quite simple for that. But it can get more complex as well. The complexity can grow. Like if you have post, let me show you another example so that okay. So we can have we have a user, we have another user, and these are friends. Let's say we have another user who is friend to this user again, but these two users, user 1 and user 3, are not friends. Okay, so these are the relationship when we are doing. Then this user is an author of the post which is written for this user or tagged this user, and then this user is commenting on that post, and then there would be a comment property. There would be something when it was created, when he was friends, so this is how these objects are related. So there could be user 1, user 2, user 3. These are related as a friends. User 2 is actually author of a post which is tagged with user 1, and then user 3 is commenting on this post. So this is how uh, the your database will look like it in graph database. So so this is uh, so this increases the complexity, and now if there are a lot of other things involved, then this complexity also increases. So but this is fun of it. So if you want to move this kind of database into a NoSQL data, like in document DB, it will be really complex because there is a lot of relationship, lot of objects mapping, and then there will be a lot of tables like friends when they became friends, when this particular post was tagged, who, let's say, 1 million people are tagging this particular post, then it is very difficult to manage in that kind of database. So so that's why in such cases where we are talking about the social relationship between a lot of different kind of objects, then we talk about the graph database. So this is graph modeling. So so generally we will talk about actors for sure. The relationship between actors are directly shown as the line as the relationship itself. You do not want any tables as such. Action for actors is again, let's take an example. What was action for actors? We were talking about we talked about the relationship between actors. We talked about action for actors. Let's say, so again, action for actors is nothing but relationship between the actors. So I wrote it because you want to create that relationship between the two. So whenever we talk about action for actors, these are generally relationship between the actors, and if there is any other relationship between the actions, like what I want to say. Actually, I was just editing it. I will just remove it. uh, this is again is not required. Optimizations, if we want to talk about optimization, is again some kind of metadata if you want, but then it will not be present of the graph database itself. You can create a small another kind of database, like you can even create, if the interaction or saving is less, then you can use an RDBMS or a simple NoSQL database where you can keep save it as a document. So those optimization you can think of, but in general, it is a very simple database where you will have all the actors, and the relationship between the actors are represented as the relationship between objects in graph. Okay. So so that's it on the modeling part of it. So I think I rushed through a lot of things, but this mind map will give you a more when you will read through it, which will help you to quickly read through them. So you will get a more idea about how to build a particular model. Let's say we want to talk about RDBMS model, then who the actors are, what are the actions of actors, then we will talk about uh, the multi-dimensional structure of relationship. If there is one to many mapping, then you have to figure that out, and then you have to talk about optimization. So so what uh, so one thing that we should quickly go over is that uh, whatever we have talked about is, so whenever there is a question about model, or whenever you are discussing about model, um, and you are given a very big challenge. Let's take an example. You have to create a book my show. Okay, so now someone has asked you to design a book my show and design the entity diagram, or let's say all the tables which should be present in book my show. So your designing should always be top to bottom, which means that first try to identify very big components. Okay, so first try to identify who all are using what all components of the website. So there is a component which from which users are actually booking the system. There is a backend component through which book my show is actually interacting with all the events handlers, or let's say movie theaters, that which all movie is going to be launched when. Then there could be an interaction between book my show and third party, as a third party API. Probably there are certain banking system which talk to book my show at an API level, which they are actually booking on their app or on their website, but book my show is actually booking it for them. So so this could be another module. Then there would be an admin module which will be taking care of all the settings and everything like that, right? So now first you have divided it into components, then try to design the relation, the ER diagram for each component separately. So there might be a possibility that at the end you might have certain tables which are same across all the components, then you will combine them. But unless you break those components, you cannot directly start with the ER diagram of the table itself, because first you need to break it down. Okay, so so that is very important. So what I want from you is that if I need to create a book my show application, then what will be the different tables that you will propose, and what will be the relationship between those tables in both mode, that is in RDBMS as well as in document DB. So can you make that? Not now, but let's say next session you will present that, and then we can discuss. Okay. So that's it from my side. Any questions? Anything? I will consider that as a no. हाँ ये generic है, but actually what happened was that I was not able to get enough time to work upon time series database, या फिर very specific जैसे search engine के लिए how to model it, because that is very specific use case. So but this is, yes, this is more generic, where you can insert multiple dimension data in a single table. If you can do that, then probably uh, you only have to focus upon actors and, let's say, actions of actors. So anything else, any other questions?